my name is Kayla Meyer. Today I'm going to review OnBase Workflow and OnBase Studio. The OnBase Workflow module is an electronic document routing system that processes work more efficiently, quickly, and accurately than your traditional paper processing. Workflow streamlines the business processes and is designed to accommodate change quickly. Documents can enter workflow in a variety of ways, including input processors with cold, dip, document imaging, and PCL. Documents may also be imported into workflow processes manually or via an electronic form, which is completed over the internet. Configurable rules and actions ensure that documents are distributed in a standard controlled manner and that the business rules and practices are followed. Workflow has the ability to prompt users for input or automatically process documents based on information such as their keywords, document handle ID, or their document type. Assigning specific users with rights to modify a document's movement on an ad hoc basis accommodates exceptions to the configure model. Cameras can be employed on queues to make sure documents continue through the process efficiently. Troubleshooting and queue logging tools allow for error-free, secure configuration. Configured workflows can be exported to disk for backup and recovery purposes or for distribution to another OnBase system. OnBase Workflow is accessible through the OnBase client, the Unity client, via the internet using the web client, and also through the mobile client. In order to use OnBase Workflow, you have to configure the lifecycle and queue in OnBase Studio. OnBase Studio is more than just an enhancement to the OnBase Workflow. It is an administrator's assistant in creating a lifecycle. Its graphical layout, visual notifications, and the ability to generate documentation have made this easy to configure module even easier to use, and OnBase Studio is free to you if you own Workflow. So let's go ahead and take a look at OnBase Studio. As soon as you go to log into OnBase Studio, you'll notice you're prompted with a couple questions here. You need to connect to an application server and also your data source. And then you need to use an account that has access to configure workflow. Once you're logged in, you can see your workflow tab here. If you have any workflows configured, this is where they'd be located. But you can go ahead and create a new workflow by a couple different processes. One, you can right-click in here, select New and Lifecycle. Or you can go up to the Lifecycle here in your ribbon and select Lifecycle from there. You would enter in a name for your lifecycle. And then you would need to choose if you're going to use a Unity lifecycle or a standard lifecycle. The Unity lifecycle became available in OnBase 12 and higher. In addition to documents, Unity lifecycles can route work view objects, manage folders, plan review projects, and agenda items. In addition to routing items other than documents, Unity Lifecycle also includes the ability to use ownership and portfolios. Standard lifecycles, also known as the legacy lifecycle, is created when the Create a Unity Lifecycle option is not selected. This option right here would have to be unchecked. Documents are the only type of item that can be routed in the standard lifecycle. So let's go ahead and create a Unity lifecycle. Again, I'm going to do the option of just a document, but there's tons of different things you can have within this lifecycle, and select New. The next thing you're going to want to do is identify the names of your queues that you want within your lifecycle. You, of course, want to use a name that means a little bit more than just first, second, third, and fourth queue. You can change the order of your queues here. And it is best practice to always create an initial queue when configuring a new lifecycle. The next thing you want to identify is the documents that you want to enter this lifecycle. Again, as we mentioned earlier, documents can enter the lifecycle in many different ways. So if you're going to do something like an input processor, like a cold or diff, document imaging, things like that, you will want to configure the document that's going to go into this lifecycle here. If you're going to have a document enter in this lifecycle from a different lifecycle in workflow, you would not enter any documents at all. So let's go ahead and add a document and click next. And then we want to configure who can have access to see this lifecycle. And lastly, we're going to get a summary of everything we've configured so far. So the name of our lifecycle, what type of lifecycle we selected, the queues that we created, the documents that will go into this lifecycle, and the groups that have access to it. Once we select finish on our summary page, our lifecycle will be created. Once the lifecycle is created, you are presented with a graphical layout in the center panel of OnBase Studio. So you'll see that here. The graphical layout can be used for configuration, but more importantly, it helps others visually understand the process surrounding the lifecycle, and once finished, it can be used to enhance the lifecycle documentation. You'll see here I have all my different queues. I can design those, graphically lay them out any way I would like. So before we start really configuring this lifecycle, I want to just review a few things with you. I have my lifecycle highlighted, and over here to the right, I have many different tabs with different options. The help text is very important. The help text is a field that is optional, but it's an area to add instructions, tips, or any information that may be useful to the users of this lifecycle. So this information is displayed in our client when you hover over the lifecycle. So that would be really helpful to see that this lifecycle is used for the key to process their invoices. So anything that would be helpful for the users is what you would want to, where you would want to put that information here. Again, you can verify your users' groups. You can add additional user groups if maybe you want to change or add something down the road. You can also update your document types. Icons seem to be pretty popular, so you can select the icon you want to use for this lifecycle. Any documentation. So this area is very important because when you are creating a workflow diagram, the overview and details will get imported into that diagram for you. And then lastly, you have your title. So let's start configuring our queues. So we have our lifecycle. Within our lifecycle, we have multiple queues within. If we expand our initial queue, you'll notice we have system work, ad hoc user tasks, timers, and transitions. There's nothing configured yet. So let's go ahead and configure system work. System work is something that's going to happen as soon as the document hits this queue. So let's just say you have an AP invoice that enters in our lifecycle. The first queue it goes to is our initial queue, and the first thing it's going to do is run system work. So from system work, we can right click, we can select new, and then we can identify what we want it to do. We can do a new action, we can do a new rule. So an action is something that's going to happen right away. A rule is something that's really going to evaluate something within your system. So let's just do a new rule, and let's say, is this invoice so we named the rule here, and we want to use something pretty specific. We actually have to configure the rule over here on the right-hand side. For rule type, we can check the document type. Do we have tons of options here? We really want to review the module reference guide to know everything that you're able to do here with the rules. We can check our document type. We can then look to see if this is I'm selecting a W4 because that's how I configured it, but we can look to see what the document type is. So now we have OnBase looking, is this an AP invoice? But now we need to tell OnBase what to do. So if it is an AP invoice, so let's go ahead and select true and right click again. We can do new. We can create another rule. So we can say, okay, if it's an AP invoice, now is it an invoice for this vendor or this organization, or maybe is it over this dollar amount? We can create rules within rules, or we can identify just an action to do. So let's go ahead and select an action of, okay, so yep, this is an AP invoice. Let's go ahead and route to our first queue. Again, we named the action, but we haven't actually created the action yet. So off to the right-hand side, now we want to create the action. We have some approvals, we have some documents. So because you can continue to scroll, or you can start typing on something you're looking for. So I'm looking for add item to other lifecycle. I can select the lifecycle I want to add it to. I'm just going to stay within this lifecycle, but this would be if you wanted to add it to a different lifecycle. And then I'm going to select a different queue there. Maybe on false, I want to do something different. I want to create another rule or a timer or something like that. You have your ad hoc task. So this would be where you have somebody logging into the workflow queue to evaluate and do some type of action on this document. So my ad hoc task can be for somebody to approve a document and route it to another queue, to deny a document, to send a notification. There's tons of things you can do within workflow. Once you've configured your workflow, you would then want to save your workflow. And you would want to reset your server cache. Let's go ahead and look at the Unity client now to see what the workflow looks like. We'll take a look at this workflow as well as other workflows that have already been done. We'll log into the Unity client. From there, you'll see I do have a couple of workflows already on my personal page. However, I'm just going to go to my workflow up here in my ribbon. And then I can scroll through my list of workflows here. I could start typing in the queue or lifecycle I'm looking for up here. And you'll see I have my new lifecycle here. I didn't really do too much with it, but I can see all my queue names that I have. If I clicked on them and there were any documents in here, I could start seeing that. So let's look at one that's already pretty much built out for us. So our AT invoice approval processing lifecycle. If we expand this, we can see all the different queues that we have access to. Let's select one that has documents in it. So we know there's documents in this non-queue queue here because the number 5 means how many documents are in this current queue. We can see our list of documents here. This is configurable, what displays, how the columns display, the icons that display. This is all configurable. And then we have our image of our actual document here on our screen. And any of our ad hoc tasks would be up here at the top. So let's go ahead and approve this invoice for full payment. Great, OnBase approved it, and now it's removed from this queue, and we only have 4 items left. Let's go ahead and select another invoice. Let's go ahead and select the ad hoc task for approve for a partial payment. And you'll notice because I selected this ad hoc task, I am prompted with a box to enter in the reason for a partial payment. And now we're down to 3 invoices. Go ahead and select another one. Let's go ahead and deny this payment request. Oh, that ad hoc task's not working. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's select route for approval. And now we're down to 2. You'll see when we're using the ad hoc task, the documents, there's some user interaction. The documents may get routed to a different queue or a different person. If we did not use the ad hoc task, we can use our system work where something goes into a queue. It goes then to the next step and the next step. There's timers, so we can say, in one day, check for this or that, any logic we want, and the timer can do the work for us. The workflow is very powerful, again, to support your business processes and to allow for manual interaction and no interaction. Again, I highly suggest looking over the reference guides, the module reference guides, because there are a lot of actions and rules and things you can do within OnBase Studio to make your workflow as seamless as possible. Thank you for joining me and have a great day.